Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another spectacular video, guys. Disregard all that construction noise going on behind us. We got a new gift. Oh, we can't really see the car, but we got something special, guys. I did it again, guys. I didn't have my thinking cap on and I pulled the trigger on something that I seriously did not need for the STI. So if you guys did not know, I have an NVIDIA Q300 on my STI that I've been running for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. And I love it. In my opinion, it's probably the best daily driver exhaust system you can get for the STI or WRX. But lately, guys, I've been thinking, now that I don't daily the STI, we should probably spice up the exhaust. I went out and bought another catback exhaust system for the STI. Now, this is a Magnaflow competition series catback, and there is my Q300, guys. Look, you can already off the bat tell the piping here is stainless steel. In here we have metal that looks like it's already starting to show signs of rust. You probably didn't know this, but I did do a resonator delete on this, hence the welded straight pipe right there. However, this was years ago, guys, years ago. So the welds look like they are past due, and it looks like it's been cracking a little bit. That probably happened in the course of removing this catback system, because let me just say, guys, it was a pain. So if you remember, I did have a diffuser going along the bottom of the car. Now that piece right there and that other piece right there would cover up the mufflers, the exhaust tips I should say. I'm pretty sure you guys saw it. Anywho, the hardware on that was practically shot to hell. So we had to grind it. We had to grind down all these pieces because they weren't working. We had to grind these suckers up. Look at that. Every single one of them had to be grinded down just to remove the diffuser. Now, so after grinding down all the nuts and bolts from the diffuser, we then had to tackle the removal of the catback itself, which was another issue because those bolts were also shot to hell. The threads are just too corroded and rusted up. The nut's not going to go anywhere. So we ended up practically breaking most of the bolts holding in the catback. Word of advice, get higher quality bolts. So now, if we look down, we should be able to see our downpipe right down there. So that is the current sit rep. We have the diffuser removed, and we have the Q300 removed. The next thing we have to do, guys, is prep the Magnaflow catback. And now for the big disclaimer, guys. Remember how I said this is secondhand Magnaflow competition series catback? This is from a 2015 Subaru WRX, which, if you're in the Subaru game, you understand is a completely different version of what I have. It's not a similar model, just a different year. It's a completely different revamped model. I'm really rolling the dice on this one, guys. Depending on the title of this video, it'll either say restoring an old rusted out catback, or it's gonna say STI gets louder, guys. I don't know what's gonna happen. Now, I do know that they're pretty much the same layout, the cars, the Subarus themselves, even the newer models. They're very similar in the layout, and some catbacks and certain parts even function between the different years. So first thing, folks, is we want to take care of the piping. Right now the tubing is not in the best shape right now, and we want to prep it for paint. Alright guys, we finally got the catback sanded down and painted in some high heat, rust stopping, flat black paint. We'll get up close and personal in a little bit, but one thing I noticed about this exhaust, guys, lugging it around from painting, is that it is heavy. I think it's heavier than the Q300. I feel like I'm trading in a lot just for that extra rumble. Piping has been painted in a high heat, up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, flat black paint. Obviously, before we painted, we sanded down as much as we could. Still a couple of spots here and there, but we sanded down as much as we could to try and get a nice, smooth surface, and so that the paint can actually adhere to it a lot better. But I think we did a pretty good job. And now the last step is to polish the mufflers. As you can see, they're pretty dirty. We will focus on that next. As of now, we're just going to go ahead and let the paint properly cure with this one day, and then we'll get to making these two shiny again. I've never actually heard an STI with no catback. I think I want to hear it. Loud. And it would be nice, it would be a good opportunity to replace these clamps with newer ones or stainless steel ones. However, the only issue is with this, guys, is that I feel like these old, because these were used when this thing was purchased, that I feel like these clamps have already baked onto the piping. So really, if I did get new clamps on there, it probably won't hold as much as these are. So we're going to leave the clamps alone. They look fine. There don't seem to be an issue with them. We're going to focus our attention on the mufflers, guys. We gotta use the old spit and shine to make these things alive again. Okay, so here we have one of the mufflers nearly done. Now this is the bottom of it. We need to flip the cap back over to do the top of it, but this is the bottom. So far so good. Could be done a little bit better, but I think it's good enough, guys. Remember, it's an exhaust. It's gonna get dirty anyways regardless, so we'll do the best that we can. And here's the old one. Still all dirty. Nice. The polished muffler, nice and clean, right guys? Or would you rather have this one? Look at this. Look, you can actually read the logo. And it's almost a mirror finish. Now, of course, this thing does have age to it, so there's still some dings and there's still some contaminants on it. But I think for the most part, guys, the muffler looks spectacular. Now, I was also considering maybe painting these bits right here black with the piping. But I don't know, I might just keep it as is. It looks fine to me, but just peep that, guys. Oh my goodness. I first start out with this little plastic bristle brush here. It's not too rough, so it's not going to scratch heavily. So it's a nice little starter brush to get rid of all the dirt and big stuff out the way first. And then for the harder parts, maybe there's a little bit of rust or something corroding on there, I use the metal brush. Now again, these are still soft. They're not really stiff bristles, so it won't scratch the muffler too badly. Once I have removed the big stuff, the big dirt on the muffler itself, then I'll go ahead and clean it off with some scented isopropyl alcohol. Now this is just a pre-mixture one. You can use regular isopropyl alcohol and water. Do this, spray it down, dry it up, and then I hit it lastly with some mag aluminum polish by Mothers. And then you do that, guys, you do it a few times, and you get a nice, nearly mirror-like finish. This is the untouched muffler. Now as you guys can see, we already have this big clump of dirt here that's already piling on. Now this is good for the brushes to start out with. So just using the soft bristle brush, we got a vast majority of the dirt that was on the top layer off. A good chunk of it is just the dirt on the top layer. Next up, I'm going to use the metal brush to get these inside corners right over here, guys. Just here and just here, never on the muffler itself. The second muffler has been cleaned and polished, and let me just say, it looks just as good as the first one, guys, if not better. That mother's mag and aluminum polish thing works wonders. Well, guys, we finally got the mufflers cleaned up and polished. Now remember, this catback was in pretty horrendous condition. We sanded it down, and then we cleaned it up, and then we painted it with some high heat rust stopping flat black paint, which I think looks good. Whew, a lot of work, but I think it's worth it. The last thing we need to do, guys, is test it on the STI. But I did line up with my old Q300. I did line it up, and it looks like all of the hangers from the Q300 line up with the ones on the Magnaflow. So that's a good sign, I think, because if they're in the same spot hangers, then it has to be the same thing, even though the piping is routed differently. And that is going to do it for the intermission here right now, guys. I have to go to work. I have to do other stuff, but I'll be back in the next frame. Pissed if I was just coming into work in the morning and all I hear was just let's get the f out of here. Looks like that dude over there is just learning how to drive. He's taking up the entire lot. I just want to do my video. Oh yeah, listen to that purr. Well, guys, we got the Magnaflow catback exhaust system that's not meant for my model installed on the STI. So looking down here, guys, that Y pipe is pretty low to the ground. Yeah, it wasn't like that on the Q300. But again, remember, this exhaust isn't even meant for my car, but we still made it work. That is going to wrap it up, guys, for the Magnaflow catback install on the STI. So we did restore the exhaust. It was in pretty bad condition, but we brought it back to life. And then 2, we made the STI louder in the process. The STI sounds so much better right now. I love it. I cannot stop driving it. There it is. On my Q300, on the gasket that mates the catback itself to the downpipe, I used an extra thick one. It's pretty thick. So that caused the catback to push out a little bit more. If you can see it, it's popping out just a bit more, but I like it. It looks good. You can definitely see the shine. So I'll take it as it is. However, pushing the catback just that little bit up has caused a little bit of stress on the rubber hangers that support the catback. So there is a little bit of stress on them, but that's okay. They're hangers, they're rubber. I can get them replaced, not a big deal. Well, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, not just for me, but for the Subaru. So I guess you can put an exhaust from a 2015 onto a 2013. Pretty cool.